In war-torn Afghanistan, a 30-year-old poor woman looks after her paralyzed husband, whose vegetative state is caused by a bullet in his neck. Shots and explosions are heard outside the window, but she does not move away from her husband. After washing his hands and face, the spouse turns to Allah to give them strength and help them cope with the ailment. Trying to bring her husband out of his stupor, the woman asks him to hold his breath, but realizes that he does not react to her words in any way. The doctor said that in a couple of weeks everything will be fine, but 16 days have passed, and the husband is still motionless. Only 2 daughters manage to distract the mother from the father, who are very hungry and ask to go grocery shopping. As soon as they go out into the street, militants drive by, who are exchanging fire with the enemy. The locals are used to living in hell, so they do not react to what is happening around them. Once at the pharmacy, the woman tries to buy medicines, but she has no money and the pharmacist refuses to let the goods go on loan. There is no way to find money, so the woman returns home and makes her husband a drip with salty sweet water, depriving him of hunger. Despite her husband's vegetative state, the woman communicates with him and asks for permission to go out to the store or go to her aunt. There is no answer, so she puts on a hijab and goes to the only native person who did not leave the city because of military clashes. Soon the woman comes to her aunt, but the unknown opens the door and drives her away. Now she has no one, so the disappointed spouse returns home and tells her spouse about it. His family had left the day before without deeming it necessary to warn them about it. This offends the woman, because she knows the circumstances under which the spouse was injured. 16 days ago, he ran into a man who insulted his mother. My husband had been fighting against enemies for years, but received a bullet from a fellow jihadist, a compatriot who shot him in the back. The daughters again distract the mother from conversations with her husband, as they are very afraid of the dark. There is no electricity in the house, so the woman lights a kerosene lamp. At the same time, the girls see that the bedroom door is open, and decide to visit their father. Not realizing that he is in a difficult situation, the daughters pull out a life-sustaining pipe from the man's mouth and jump on it, trying to play. Returning to the house, the woman sees the horror happening and expels her daughters to make sure that they did not harm her husband. After examining the body, the woman realizes that the wound is still not healing, and the bullet is still in the neck. Soon, a message is heard over the loudspeaker, according to which people should gather near the mosque to get weapons to protect the city. As soon as the first explosion is heard, a woman with children runs away to the basement, where her neighbors are hiding. Hiding in a shelter, people listen to the radio to understand when it will be safe in the city. As soon as the explosions subside, the woman rushes to her husband and makes sure that everything is fine with him. Outside the window, armed soldiers and tanks can be seen randomly shelling the city to cause maximum damage. The gunshots scare the woman, and she returns to the basement to calm the frightened children. A few hours later, the woman goes up to the house, seals the glass that broke from the shock wave and removes the consequences of the shelling. Back in the basement, she hugs her daughters so they don't cry. At the same time, Afghan militants sneak into the house and find a man. After removing his watch and wedding ring, the soldiers conduct a search. At some point, they decide to eliminate the man, but leave him unharmed, since he has a Quran in his room. Upon returning to the house, the women realize that they were robbed, but it's not so scary, because her neighbors gutted and took her life, leaving her hanging in the middle of the yard. The children are in danger, so the woman collects things and goes with her daughters to her aunt. The unknown woman tries to drive her away again, but gives the address to an aunt who has moved to a hotel for easily accessible women. Having found her aunt, she leaves her daughters under her supervision and learns the terrible story of a relative. It turned out that she was married, but turned out to be infertile. Her husband sent her to her parents, and her father-in-law decided to take advantage of the situation and took the woman by force until she sent him to the next world. The mother of 2 daughters leaves the girls and takes some money to buy her husband medicines. Upon returning home, she talks to a motionless man, recalling recent events. His brothers knew about the war, but abandoned the family, despite the fact that their house is in the line of fire. A little later, the woman admits that she is dissatisfied with the marriage, because for 10 years of living together they have hardly seen each other. If he had died, she would have become the wife of one of the brothers and run away. But that didn't happen. She is no less offended by the fact that 10 years ago she married not a man, but a blade and his photograph. The mother-in-law controlled every step and slept next to her so that the young girl would not cheat on her fighting husband. Plunging into memories, she talks about what terrible people her parents were. The father was obsessed with quails and did not pay attention to his daughter, often raising his hand to her sisters and mother. Once he spent all the money on special birds, but they got scared during quail fights and ran away. Having no money, the father gave his 12-year-old daughter in marriage to the one he owed. Not wanting to become the next victim of human excitement, she got rid of the birds by feeding them to the cat. At some point, the woman realizes that she is too frank with her husband, and runs away to her aunt to tell about it. Her aunt calms her down, informing her that her paralyzed husband has become a magic stone of patience for her, and he will withstand everything. If the stone splits into small pieces, it will make a prophet of Allah out of its owner. The woman decides that her husband is a stone of patience, and on returning home she kisses him. Soon she hears how the neighbors are burying relatives and again do not let the doctor on the doorstep of the house, since she has nothing to pay him with. The city is full of military men, so a woman hides her husband in a niche in the wall, covering him with pillows and a curtain. Soon, the commander of an Afghan detachment and a stuttering soldier appear in her house. Realizing that she can be taken by force, she says that she works as an easily accessible woman. A Muslim considers this low and disgusting, so he spits in the woman's face and insults her, not realizing that she has a knife behind her back, which she is ready to use at any moment. The next morning, the stuttering soldier returns to the house and offers money for the woman to make love to him and deprive the guy of his virginity. Not accepting a refusal, he throws money on the floor and uses the woman. After a moment of shame, she washes it off in the bathroom and decides to spend the money she earned wisely. The next morning, she buys water and food, as well as medicines for her husband. Soon the young soldier visits the woman again and pays handsomely to spend a couple of minutes with her. Without hiding anything, the woman tells her husband about it, because he will not do anything to her. Dates last only a couple of minutes, but it's still better than what happened with your spouse. At some point, the woman realizes that saying terrible things and takes the Quran to repent of her sins. The next morning she notices that the damaged fence has been repaired. As it turned out, the young soldier did it to spend at least a couple more minutes with her. The guy is being bullied by the commander, and his body is strewn with cigarette burns. Realizing all this, the woman calmed down the stuttering soldier who took up a gun involuntarily. Meeting her aunt again, she learns that the prophet will not stop, and they also have their drawbacks. Returning home, the woman finds fruit and a gold chain, which was given to her by a soldier in love. She understands that only with him she feels happy, but guilty before her husband. Trying to be fair to the immobile man, the wife tries to caress her husband, but soon realizes that she has acted lowly and is atoning for sins. A little later, she decides to tell the biggest and most terrible secret that she has kept all these years. Being pregnant, she tried to get rid of the baby and almost strangled the girl with her feet. The reason for this was her husband's infertility, about which she did not dare to tell him. The woman did not want to lose her marriage and name, so she met with the owner of the house with slightly available women. Later, she introduced him to his mother-in-law and gave him to a healer so that she would repay his services. In fact, the woman made love to men in a dark room and did not know their names or appearance about them. She doesn't know who the fathers of their daughters are, and she's not sure if they're the same person. After hearing the frightening and chilling truth, the spouse comes out of the vegetative state and attacks the woman, trying to strangle her. Grabbing a knife, the woman deprives her husband of his life and believes that she destroyed the stone of patience by becoming a prophetess. Just at this moment, a young soldier decides to visit his beloved and becomes a casual witness of the crime that occurred. And that's where the movie ends. Thank you for watching to the end. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss new videos. Put likes and share your impressions of the movie in the comments. See you soon and bye to everyone.